Hi everybody, Cedar here, and I'm going to talk to you today about how to hang a painting. A good question to ask always before purchasing any kind of art is, do I have the wall space to hang this piece? If you're like me, you're very familiar with certain measurements because you're used to seeing them all the time, like 16 by 20, 24 by 36 inches, etc. Then you might be able to tell at a glance whether or not there's room on your wall to hang that particular painting. But chances are, most people will need to measure to make sure. Aside from just measuring the wall with a measuring tape, I would also recommend taking it one step further to really get an idea of what a painting of a certain size would look like in that spot. You can take a large sheet of scrap cardboard, poster board, or anything you can get your hands on that is large enough. It can be destined for the recycle bin, it doesn't matter. You might have to take several sheets of paper and tape them together. Just figure out a way to create a rectangle that is the exact size of the painting. You can then hold this up on the wall and really visualize what will it be like. Placement of artwork is no big deal if you have a natural talent for interior design. This is for those of us who don't, or who need just a little extra help to figure it out. The painting should not take up all of the available space, if you can help it. It's good to have a certain amount of what I call buffer around the painting to give a place for the eye to rest. Here's what it looks like when you don't leave enough buffer. If you have a large wall, don't be afraid to leave some of it blank. When you do this, it showcases the artwork more elegantly. If you've ever walked into an upscale art gallery, you'll know what I mean. These kind of galleries normally have gleaming white walls, empty clean wooden floors, excellent lighting, and almost nothing else. Artwork in this setting takes on a feeling of importance. There's often just one painting per wall. At the same time, you also want the artwork to make a statement. If you hang a small painting on a large wall, it may not have the kind of visual impact that you're looking for. Here's what happens when the painting is too small for the wall. It gets lost in that big wall. So when you're decorating, try to choose artwork for your space that is not too big, not too small, but just right. Once you've selected your new artwork, decided where you're going to hang it, and finally gotten it home, hanging it on the wall is a simple process. You'll need a picture hanging hook, a pencil, measuring tape, a hammer, and a level. The first thing you need to do is find the point on your wall where you want the center of the painting to be. You may need to measure if you want it exactly centered on a wall, but in most cases, it is okay to eyeball it. Mark the spot. I like to use a piece of masking tape. Then measure the length of the painting from top to bottom and find the midpoint by dividing that number in half. I'm going to show you as an example with this painting behind me. It's called Freedom, and this painting is 36 inches by 48 inches. So this painting is 36 inches high by 48 inches wide. So I apologize to those of you who think in centimeters, but I think in inches, and hopefully the numbers will still make sense. So the vertical midpoint, exactly halfway between the top and bottom of the painting, is going to be 18 inches from the top and the bottom, because it's 36 inches tall and 18 inches is half of that. So you want this imaginary line, the vertical midpoint, to be at eye level when your painting is hanging on the wall. Now, the average person's eye level is about 60 inches from the floor. If you're taller or shorter than average, you can use a measuring tape to figure out exactly where your eye level is. Let's assume in this case that it's about 60 inches. The back of the painting should have a hanging wire installed. If it doesn't, you can get picture hanging wire and hardware from any hardware store or online. The wire should always go about 1/4 to 1/3 of the way down from the top edge of the painting. The wire should be at least 2 inches from the top edge of the painting when you pull it taut to give enough space for your wall hook to not interfere with your wooden stretcher bar at the top of your painting. And the wire should be coiled tightly and neatly so it's secure. I'll put a link in the description for my other video about how to attach a hanging wire. So you want to pull the wire up towards the center of the painting's top edge, just as if you were hanging it on the wall, and gravity were pulling it taut. Measure the distance from the wire to the top edge of the painting. On this painting, that number is about 3.5 inches. The number that you need is the measurement from the eye level line, or the vertical midpoint, to the point where the wire will hang on the hook. So to get this number, you would subtract that 3.5 inches from 18 and get 14.5. This is how high above eye level that you need to place the bottom of the hook, because that's where the wire will be hooked. So add 14.5 to your eye level measurement of 60. You'll place the bottom of the hook for this painting at 74.5 inches from the floor. You can mark this spot with a little pencil dot or a piece of tape. Picture hooks can be found online or at any hardware store. My favorite brand is Ook. It's OOK because this kind doesn't cause too much damage to your wall. They come in different sizes and they're rated to hold different amounts of weight. And the nail goes in at an angle to really anchor it into the wall. If you're hanging a heavy piece of art, make sure to use hooks that are rated for the proper weight. For this painting, I'm going to be using this super heavy-duty hook that happens to have 3 nails in it, and it is rated to hold 100 pounds, which this painting doesn't weigh nearly that much, so this is overkill, but there's certainly no harm in it. I don't recommend using nails to hang a painting because the wire can slip off of a nail more easily. With the hook, there's no chance of that. So if you've measured correctly, when you hang the painting by its wire on the hook, the center of the painting should be exactly at eye level. If you're off by ½ an inch, don't stress about it. You won't be able to tell by looking. You can use a level to make sure that it's hung straight. One note, if a painting is much wider than it is high, for example, 24 inches high by 48 inches wide, the canvas will usually have a cross brace in the middle. In these cases, you'll have to hang the painting from 2 hooks, one on either side of the cross brace. When you pull the wire taut to measure its distance from the top edge, you'll just have to pull it tight across 2 points. It's a little tricky, but if you understand the concept, you'll be able to get an accurate measurement every time. The important thing in those cases is to use a level when you're installing the 2 hooks to ensure that they are placed in line with each other. Of course, a painting does not always have to be at eye level. For example, if you're hanging it above a piece of furniture or in a configuration with other paintings, then eye level becomes less important. In those cases, it's usually best to eyeball it. But once you figure out where you want the center of the painting to be, you can still use this method to figure out exactly where to hang the hook. Then you avoid unnecessary holes in your wall. Hopefully this info is helpful to you. Next time you're hanging a painting, a photograph, or a mirror, or anything heavy up on your wall and you want to get it right on your first try.